Welcome on all to another edition of the Defo Show without Defo with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by the great people at Water Cleanup of Florida. I talked about this yesterday. I've been dealing with some stuff at the home front. Nothing for Water Cleanup of Florida to do, but it made me wonder, happy that I know they exist, because the people came out and they did a nice job. But it always leaves something to be desired. I always wonder if they're being honest with me. I always wonder if they're being truthful with me. That's what's really cool about Water Cleanup of Florida. First of all, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can get in contact with them, which makes life so much easier. But with over 60 years of experience, they've been through it all. Michael, Robert, and their team. So you know you're getting quality. You know you're getting the honest truth. You know you're getting the top work from Water Cleanup of Florida. Plus, with licensed contractors, they can make your life easier. And that's the other thing. They came out, they looked at it, they did something with it. Was something with the AC, they fixed it, but now there's something else. Now they're waiting for a part, now they're doing a thing. And I get it with supply chain. It's not all their fault, and I appreciate their work. But again, I feel like they're finding ways to make me pay for this, make me pay for that. Water Cleanup of Florida, they will come, assess the situation, and they'll fix it. They'll make life easier for you. And isn't that what we all want? Water Cleanup of Florida, give them a call, 954-579-0356. 954-579-0356. Visit their website, wcufl.com, wcufl.com. Also, if you do call, get in touch with them and mention 5 Reasons or Lubie, 5 Reasons or Lubie, you get a free inspection during business hours. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Water Cleanup FL, Water Cleanup of Florida. We clean up your schmutz. All right, so the schmutz is sort of settled on the Miami Heat series. We're now fully enthralled in the offseason. The Panthers, who knows what to do with that. And the Miami Dolphins. Schmutz hasn't happened yet. We're just excited. Well, to me, a guy we love to talk about all things South Florida. The one and only Dave Hyde, one of the longest tenured columnists in South Florida. He's a guy who's been syndicated. He's won awards. He's in Halls of Fame. And he has a book coming out later this year, Swagger, involved with Jimmy Johnson, one of the big-time figures in South Florida sports history. So, no better guy to talk to today, right here at the Defo Show, without Defo, with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, then the one and only Dave Hyde. We talk about the Miami Heat series versus the Boston Celtics Eastern Conference Finals. We talk about this offseason for the Miami Heat. We touch on the Panthers a little bit, and talk about the Miami Dolphins' love and excitement right here with Dave Hyde on the Defo Show with Lubie, without Defo, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. A man who's been up for many awards, many Hall of Fames, and we presume is syndicated, and even if he's not, we're going to say he is. The one and only Dave Hyde joins me today here on the Defo Show without Defo with Lubie. Good morning, Dave. How you doing?
Lubie, you're going solo. Good for you. It's about time you had your own show, you know?
Shh. Defo thinks this is my dream, and he doesn't. I'd love to do my own thing, but this show is not the same without the one and only Jeff DeForest. But we muddle along without him. We talk a lot more sports and a lot less gambling. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it is what I do. What Defo doesn't. All right, let's get right to it. And I talked a little bit with you yesterday on Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, and we'll transition it to here. Do a little bit less what was and more what will be, but get the postscript at least, because I read a couple of your articles about it and seen the article that, I don't know if it was today or late yesterday, about Kyle Lowry. So definitely a lot in the now and the future. But what did you take away from the Eastern Conference Finals with the Miami Heat? What was your big takeaway from that series?
Jimmy Butler, again, is carrying the team, the franchise. When he is great, they going to win. When he struggled, as he did, he averaged 9 points for 3 games there in the series. They're going to be run off the court. They're not a lot of enough help really around Butler, but they were one shot away from the NBA Finals, and that's a pretty successful year in most any book.
What do you do? Okay, it's funny because Jimmy Butler, when he came over, was a disgruntled dude, and we found out it wasn't really disgruntled. He was just frustrated, and he needed a partner and an organization that was built like the Heat, that believed in winning over everything and putting aside everything for winning. And that's where we haven't seen disgruntled Jimmy really often down here in Miami. But he still was never considered, and he still is sort of not. I mean, he wasn't on any of the All-NBA teams. But to me, when I look at postseason, big game, not even big moment, but just big game, big series, there's only a handful of guys I take over him. Like, I don't know where you rank him. Is he top 10? But when it comes to big game, big moment, to me, outside of maybe LeBron and Giannis, Steph Curry, like, to me, Jimmy Butler's put himself, that's at least what this postseason did, was 2 years ago wasn't a fluke. Jimmy Butler is a superstar, and you really can't consider him anything less.
Yeah, I think the bubble, the pandemic season when they went to the finals and he had the great playoffs was the first really coming out where you said, oh, okay, there's a lot more there than you saw at the three previous franchises. And then last year was a bizarre sweep at the first round by Milwaukee of the Heat. So this year confirmed again what you saw, a couple years ago in the playoffs. Now he'll start getting that attention or the acclaim of, okay, in a big game, he's up there with pretty much anybody. And, it's taken to this point to wipe away the first, what happened in Chicago, Minnesota, and Philadelphia, where he's known to be a good player, but also a guy who had trouble with teammates and everything. And, that guy's still there. You saw that blow up at the sideline. But, the Heat organization has brought out the best in him and allowed that to, materialize. You've seen it in big games, what he can do. And nobody thought that way of him when he came here.
So often in a loss, and you were giving Mike Mayo a little bit of guff yesterday, you thought he was being negative Mayo, and he actually, with the Heat, is the one organization he gives credit to because they've won while he was covering South Florida sports teams. But, like, the Heat are the one organization that win down here, consistently do it. To me, when a loss happens, usually you're negative, right? Especially with the Dolphins. Oh, there it is. There it is. Another playoff loss. There it is. To me, this was a success because whatever moves they made in the offseason, they weren't the moves people wanted. People wanted Alonzo Ball. They wanted a big splash. They wanted to bring in Bradley Beal. Kyle Lowry was questioned. Tucker and Morris questioned. You didn't get Oladipo or Tucker you can get Oladipo or Morris to play the entire year. Yet they made it to one shot with almost their entire roster hurt of the finals. So to me, it's nothing but a success. And I feel like there was a lot left for next year. I actually feel a lot of hope. Talking with Ethan Skolnick, it's brought me down a little. But I look at a guy like Victor Oladipo and Kyle Lowry, and as much question marks are there, I do see some positive twists. Like Victor Oladipo didn't play all year long and was their third best defender. And at times their second or third best offensive player for a guy that hadn't played in 2 years. So that means the health, it seems, is there, a full off season to work on his offensive game. If he can keep him, he's intriguing. Kyle Lowry is a guy that sort of went after the James Harden school and looks totally out of shape. But is it age or out of shape? To me, the Heat are usually good at getting guys to come around and motivate them. There's a lot to be there with Lowry and Oladipo. I know you have an article today about Kyle Lowry. What are your thoughts on those two guys moving forward for the Heat? And am I just fooling myself thinking there's a lot more positive than negative with those guys?
Well, I mean, again, a team that's a shot from the NBA Finals, there's positive there. There's questions too. Yeah. Who is Lowry? Is he a guy who got old this season? And I mean, he had no impact really, or was he just hurt? And was being hurt, the hamstring injury, a product of his conditioning? Because he was a wide body there. Now he's been a big body for his career, so you have to be careful with that a little. Tyler Hero is hurt too,
yes,
and so there's questions. The question is who's Kyle Lowry going to come back as next year? Is he going to get in shape? Is he going to realize, okay, I'm turning 37 by the next playoffs? And that's a battle not many people win in sports. And so is he, Pat Riley has a line, the older you get, the more you have to put in. And Dwayne Wade was staggering through injury after injury, it seemed like. really until his final season, the last few seasons he had, starting with the Big Three. But his final season, he played 72 games, and he talked about how much time he spent in the trainer's room getting his body ready to play. And, that's not everybody wants to do that. So the question is, where's Kyle Lowry at? Does he want it? Because he's got 2 years left, 2 expensive years left on his. Now, as far as where the Heat go, there's Duncan Robinson. I'm sure they're going to trade him or try to trade him, and there'll be a market for him. A shooter in this league in this era. He's going to make he made 16.9 this year.
Yep.
Million, not cheap, but there'll be a market for him. And the question is, okay, do they throw in a number one, and what can they get for that? Victor Oladipo, I think he's going to be a hard signing, it seems, for the Heat, just because where the salary cap is and what could be his market will be interesting. Which is too bad because the Heat marketed him back or helped him back to health.
Yeah.
And you'd like to see. He has an interesting game, and if he can stay healthy, a big upside. But getting back to his All-Star game, but it's going to be an interesting offseason. Do they need a big move? They don't need one. They're right there. They're right knocking on the door of the NBA Finals now. Will one present itself, though? That's always the issue with Pat Riley, because he's not afraid of making big moves.
Well, and that's the thing is the guys that they're rumored to get are both under contract. Like Mitchell is disgruntled and Mitchell's disgruntled.
Right.
I mean, the Jazz went backwards, and there was no reason to. They should have beaten the Mavs. They were. It felt like they were never even in that series because Mitchell's not happy. I mean, it's clear he's not happy, but he has yet to say, I want out. Same thing with Beal. Beal can't be happy. I mean, the dude is averaging 29 a game for 3 years straight. And he's grown his entire game, and they're not winning. So obviously he's not happy, but he hasn't asked out. So that's the whole thing where for fans to start doing the wishing and hoping like it's 2010 again. I haven't, because neither of these guys is quote unquote on the market, not even the trade market. And outside of that, there's a lot. Look, we saw growth from Hero and Bam this year in the regular season. Bam continued it defensively. We still want to see more of Game 3 and Game 7 of Bam. Hero fell off a cliff even before the injuries. So we wonder, can there be more growth? Same thing, can you keep an Oladipo? Same thing with Lowry. So there's so many questions there. I'm not assuming that they need, like you just said, a big name. But again, Riley doesn't like resting on his laurels, and they lost to the Celtics in agonizing fashion, and he hates the Celtics. So that's what's great about this team, where the other organizations in South Florida sort of let you down. This team always surprises you pleasantly. So I'm leaving it open for the Heat, because you just never know. Like, who thought they would have got to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals when you signed Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, and Morris in the offseason?
Oh, I thought they'd be a tough out. Now, I thought Milwaukee really was still a team, and you look at injuries. We talk about injuries with the Heat. Milwaukee had their second best player got hurt, and that changed their trajectory. So you have to factor that into, okay, are the Heat moving forward? Are they one of the three best teams? Probably, but they could easily lose the series before if they get the wrong matchup. If they play Boston in the second round or Milwaukee in the second round, a healthy Milwaukee. So and you like to hear some of the things though that came out of the Heat yesterday. Tyler Hero talked about, I need to get stronger.
Yep.
That's my number one. And the fact he's already looking at that and recognize it, knows it, and is making that a prime goal is that's good for where not only he's going and then his career is going, but for the Heat too.
Dave Hyde, not only renowned sports columnist, but author, swagger, about Jimmy Johnson or involving Jimmy Johnson or with Jimmy Johnson, a biography about Jimmy Johnson, will be coming out later this year. We will talk a little bit about swagger because I presume we'll talk a lot about it going forward, as we love talking to this man and we're really giddy about the book, especially with our connection to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and our connection to the Canes. So we will definitely continue to talk about swagger. But you said it's funny. It's why the Heat loss isn't as deflating to me as the Panthers. And not that they not only went to another round, it's just how it felt different. Like the entire series, they kept saying we can do more when you knew physically they couldn't. Like Jimmy Butler couldn't do more. The dude played 45 out of 48 minutes and 48 out of 48 when his knee was a disaster. Like he couldn't do more, but he felt like he should have. The Panthers, it was the opposite the whole time. Whether it was the Capitals or the second round, well, we were just scared and nervous. Like scared and nervous. You're the number one seed in all hockey. What the heck are you scared and nervous after the first 5 minutes of game one? Like, I watched the Avalanche play, and I'm like, why didn't the Panthers do that? Their goalie's not playing better than Bobrovsky played. They gave up 4 goals last night, and 6 after, I'm sure they removed the netminder. Like, it's just, to watch the way the Panthers went out was very deflating because, to me, they had the talent. It was the quote-unquote intangibles that felt tangible. Like, watching them play, it felt like you could actually touch the idea that they were not all in the way that they should have been. Yeah,
in the playoffs, you look for a team to take that step forward. Okay, here's, it's not 82 games anymore. It's this is what, we're going for the title or going for the series or whatever. And the Panthers, even in the Washington series, they rarely got to the game you saw in the regular season. There's yes, playoff hockey's different. Defensive, Washington set up a defensive system, and Tampa Bay was, Tampa Bay is 2-time defending champs and going for a third time. So they're very good, but the Panthers didn't really, until the last game, really compete with them in the series. And that was a disappointing part of going out the way they did. You didn't see the game of the regular season, much less that game with taking a step forward. And so, and then the talk of that they're nervous, and it was just weird. It was a weird dynamic for them. They should be decidedly hungry more than nervous. So you got, Huberdeau, what was he in his 10th year or 9th year, and Barkov's one less, and Ekblad's one less. These are very veteran players and very good players, and you didn't see them rise up to the moment. And that's at the start of Tampa Bay's run, they got a first round series loss, and that's something that sat on them for a while.
Yes,
and the question becomes, okay, will this be the type of motivation the Panthers have for the future, or is this just who they are?
Well, and that's the thing is, when it comes to other sports, I have such a better handle that even if it's wrong, I have no problem questioning the coach or calling for a coach, because I can sort of feel when the coach is doing their job, when the message is lost, all those things. I don't know hockey enough to feel confident in doing that, but when I watch the way the Lightning played, even though supposedly the Panthers were the better team for the second straight year, when I watch the way the Avalanche play, when I watch the way the Rangers are playing, it just looks different. And it's like this, it's not talent anymore. Like, they have the talent even before they brought in Giroux, and then they went and brought Giroux. Like, they had the talent. It just looks a step slower. It just looks different. And it's like, they didn't have to be. So that's why I question Brunette a lot. And you said something interesting yesterday, that if they were going to bring him back, they would be bringing him back. So does that mean you think they are in the market for like a Barry Trotz? And look, I know Trotz is more defensive minded. I know he's old school. I know it's a little different, but he's done this. He went to a Capitals organization that was mired with talent but couldn't win, and then won. And then he did something similar with the Islanders, didn't win a cup, but got them to another level. Could they be in the Barry Trotz sweepstakes, or looking for a guy like that?
Yeah, my thought was, if they were going to not look around, they would definitely have said Andrew Burnett's coming back the day after the season to make it a no-brainer. Okay, we know where we want to go, and he's the guy to that we want to hitch our wagon to. And the fact they didn't says, okay, we're we're definitely looking around, and who knows where it goes if they're interested in Trotz. Again, there are other guys that hockey people say fit the Panthers roster better, and that's a little beyond my knowledge of how that all works. And to be honest, I thought Brunette did a great job from how he got the job in October with Joel Quenneville and all that, to he'd never been a head coach before. Now, which plays into it too. If you're Bill Zito, the general manager, and you're making the decision, here's a guy, he wasn't a head coach. He hasn't been a head coach before. And so can you upgrade from where he was at? Some of it, like in the playoffs when they were 1 for 31 in the power play, that just can't be coaching. I mean, that's sometimes your players just have to win. And X's and O's only go so far. Sometimes your good players have to be better than their good players. And the Panthers weren't this offseason or this playoffs. Was it now that could it come down to the coach talking to the players and working those nerves out of them, or having something to say, or some little tactical thing to help them get started? Maybe, but I put that more on the players, stuff like the power play than coaching.
Dave, we appreciate your time, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but two more things. One, so it's night and day now, the feeling around the Dolphins, not only talent-wise, but just wow, Tua's so great. Wow, we love Tua. Wow, Mike McDaniel is going and grabbing a burger. He's getting popcorn. They're going to the bowling alley. Like, McDaniel's doing backflips, and they're catching him and giving him a hug. Like, it's just a whole 180 from the New England Patriot, Brian Flores ran Miami Dolphins, even Adam Gase, even Joe Philbin. It's just different, everything we're hearing. I, as the fan who's grown up down here, am happy with this. You cover the team. You've been around them. How much of it is valid? How much of it is, okay, we're going to sell us on this kid, Tua, because we're going all in on him? What are you getting from all the positivity we're seeing around the Miami Dolphins?
I get, and you mentioned the Jimmy Johnson book that we just did, Swagger, and Jimmy was a big proponent of the Pygmalion theory, which basically is you can talk someone into being great. You can tell them they're great, and they'll become great. And the Dolphins have magically changed the conversation on their franchise this offseason. And part of that's the NFL. Right now, across every play. In Detroit, they're talking about how good they're going to be. And people are saying, this could be the year for Detroit. Okay. So across the NFL right now, in May, June, going into the first day, everybody thinks that they have a good team. That's the magic of that league. And it's underlined with the Dolphins when you changed leaders from a guy who was very closed, doored. He didn't open up, interviews. Just look what's going on. Players are interviewing all the time this offseason.
Yes.
And that didn't happen. The coach, again, everybody talking about it, the shoes he wears and the musicians he quotes and things that just didn't happen before. So a lot of it kind of has nothing to do with the Dolphins win. That said, they've had a good offseason from the standpoint of they're going to be better next year with Tyreek Hill, Taron Armstead. Those are two big pieces for them. Now, does the optimism match what's going to happen? I guess that's the play out. Vegas isn't believing it. They're having. Last I saw, they were ranked number 10th in the AFC. So I mean, again, that doesn't mean a whole lot other than still when people stack up who they are against the league going into the season, they're not impressed. But boy, you hear the optimism around the Dolphins and how great everybody's going to be, and I just think Pygmalion. They're trying to set the bar high and tell everybody they're great with the idea. And it starts with Tua. Brian Flores, it was tough love with Tua, and now the coach, before he'd even seen him play, is on the airplane telling him how great he is. So, we'll take it for what it is. It's they're trying to talk themselves into having a great team, and maybe it works. This is probably the best team on paper the Dolphins have had in, I don't know, how do you want to figure? They haven't had two receivers like this since Cooper and Clayton.
Yeah.
So that's something right there.
So, and you mentioned it, Swagger coming out sometime in with November, we think. Really excited about that book. Your main character, your antagonist, your protagonist, the one and only Jimmy Johnson, the guy that we got to sit down with. And it's funny, the way you talk about leadership is very similar to what he said, in the sense that he talked about you have to treat everyone differently. And you sort of got the vibe from Flores. He didn't. He treated everyone the same. Jimmy Johnson admitted, look, I had to treat Charles Haley different than I had to treat Emmett, different than I had to treat Nate Newton, different than I had to treat Troy. And that sort of, look, they weren't all great. Troy was a number one pick, but all of them weren't. Nate went to FAM. Like, Mark Stepnovsky wasn't this well-known dude. Novacek. They weren't all great until they got there. So a lot of that makes a lot of sense. And we expect Swagger to be great, and we're really excited about the book, and I can't wait to talk more about it, Dave. Again, it's still slated, you think, sometime in November?
Yeah, they'll be out right now. We're meeting with the publisher and editor down here at the Keys near Jimmy next week, so we'll hash everything out then.
Well, congrats on the book. We're excited about it. We will talk more Dolphins. We'll talk a lot of Canes, because there's you talk about excitement, and it feels valid. They've done everything people thought they couldn't do, so we will definitely talk a lot of Canes as we get into the summer months. But Dave, thank you so much for joining me. Check him out at Dave Hyde Sports on Twitter, and of course, South Florida Sun Sentinel. Get a subscription either online or in the hand. They still exist. Dave, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lubie. Enjoy your solo act this week, and we'll. It's a good thing you sent Defo in exile so you can have your own show.
I'll get some time alone. You're the man, Dave. Thank you so much. One and only Dave Hyde. Have a good one. Thanks. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into the Defo Show without Defo with Lubie here on the Five Reasons Sports Network, and thanks to Dave Hyde for joining us. He's a little more tempered than I am about the Miami Heat, but he does see that there is positives. Look, again, you're one shot away from the finals. I mean, that's what they were. 20 seconds away from the finals. You're in a good spot. Oladipo leaves a lot of hope. Now, exactly, he showed enough where if he can be himself, he's an All-NBA player, he's going to get a big offer. The Heat don't have a lot of room, but I think they have his bird right. So I think it's definitely a possibility, especially since you're going to get rid of that Robinson contract. He is a good shooter, if not the best shooter in the league. Percentage-wise, look, he's not Steph or Clay. What I'm saying is, percentage, when he's for just a three-point shooter, he's the best three-point shooter or top 3 three-point shooter in the league. So there's going to be a market for him. You can get rid of that contract. That gives you more money. I feel like they could keep an Oladipo. But also, again, we keep mentioning Mitchell. We keep mentioning Beal. You would think Oladipo is a guy that could be, or hero, packaged with a Robinson and draft pick or draft picks to get one of those guys. But Hyde said something interesting that I totally agree with. I don't think the Heat need to do anything. If they can keep Oladipo, I think this group is very interesting. And I think Bam can still get better because we've seen what he can do on offense. He just has to do it more regularly. And Hero can get better. We saw what Hero can do in the regular season. It's time for him to do it in the playoffs. He did it in the conference finals and a little bit in the finals 2 years ago. The last 2 years, he's left something to be desired, but he showed he could do it. And like he reminded us all yesterday, he's still only 22. So, plus a guy like Martin, Strus, Vincent showed so much for guys that no one knew who they were. With that experience, what can they be? Lowry can also get in shape. There's a lot of room for the Heat to grow. So I don't think they need to make any move. I think they're the best team in the East coming back. I do. If they can keep Oladipo and he can be this, and you can get Lowry to lose weight and get in shape, like supposedly Spo said, he's never going to be in better shape than he's been. The Heat don't say things like that without meaning it. So Lowry's on board 100% with that. I think the Heat don't need to do anything. But again, if a Mitchell or Beal want out, Riley, it's always hard for him to avoid that big move, which he could use a guy that you can really count on late. That's the problem with the Bam and Hero and Lowry. in this state, even in Oladipo, it's Butler late, nobody else. And if you have a Beal or a Mitchell, you feel like you can give those guys the ball late and they can make something happen when right now you don't trust anyone else. So if you can get one of those bigger names, yeah, you will. But if they don't, I don't think they're done either. We did talk about the Panthers. I think Barry Trotz will be perfect. And I don't know everything about hockey, and I understand there's other people that work with their personnel. I'm sure he didn't work with the Capitals personnel, and they made it work. You know, like this team needs a little bit more gumption. And that's an old-timey term. It's what they need. Like, the fact that they were nervous and scared. I get being anxious early in the first game, but every game, Brunette said it every game. Like, come on, man. Like, nah. Like, you got to get over that, and you got to go out there and play. You guys were the best team by points all season, the best offense in like 3 decades. Let's see it. And I think the right coach could help with that. And the Miami Dolphins, I think for now, they have the right coach. He's different in mentality in every way from their recent coaches. And so far, the other way wasn't working. Maybe this will. So there's a lot of excitement around them. The Canes, obviously, as well. So I appreciate Dave Hyde's time. We'll talk with him more about his upcoming book, About With Jimmy Johnson, because he wrote it with Jimmy Johnson. It's about Jimmy Johnson. So we'll talk more about that, and we'll talk more with you each and every day. Check us out in the mornings. Just Google The Defo Show, DEFO. Exclusive content podcast, The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Just search After Hours today. A very interesting conversation. Georgia Durante, a lovely woman, was the face of Kodak. It was one of the Kodak girls, one of the most recognizable faces around the world. Went on to full-on modeling, or that was part of her modeling. Continued to model. Then married into the mob world and was a getaway driver for the mob, then was a stunt woman. Yes, these are all things this one woman did. An author about her interesting life. Now, Wheel Woman, her own podcast is out on iHeart, and I'm sure everywhere you can get podcasts. Had her as my guest today on After Hours on the Believe Network. Very interesting conversation. You should check that out. And each and every day, our South Florida content right here, The Devo Show with Lubie on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.